Maybe. Hey Dave, can you hear me? Yeah, okay. Well, let's bring you on then in that case. Wait a minute, what am I doing here? Where are you, Dave? There you go, you're on. You're on, Dave.
Hey everybody. Welcome to In the Neighborhood. I don't know what Mandy and Jim were just talking about. I don't know if they were focused on the show at hand. Were you two focused on the show at hand?
You were making me but yes.
It's not that hard to do, Jimmy. It's not hard to do. Hey everybody, if you're joining us in the neighborhood, we have, I'm going to do Russ at the end because he has a very special guest he's going to introduce us to. Jim Button's with us, the great Mandy Stobo is with us, and Russ Broom, where you have the phenomenal Bari with you, but I see another body in the shot. Who do you have?
It's him.
It's me.
The legend. Is that you?
What? No.
He's not you.
No.
Okay.
Forgot.
You changed the name to a symbol.
Yeah, it's like upside down smiley face
I
now.
think it's like that.
Yeah, it's kind of.
Yeah.
No, it's more like a.
It's just Simon.
Hey, Simon.
Okay,
I'm just
The
curious,
artistry-
Simon. What grade are you finishing this year?
8.
Wow. That's a big year. Did you like it or no?
No, it sucked.
Yeah, you know what? I felt this. I hated grade 8. Grade 8 was terrible.
Really?
Yeah. You did?
I missed grade 8.
What?
I missed all of grade 8 when I was sick.
Oh, that was
So
really-
my advice to Jack is terrible because I was gifted at a youth, psych ward. So I was like, I can't tell you guys anything of how to feel or how to handle it.
Sounds to me like Simon's grade 8's pretty awesome now.
It was the best 3 years of my life. I don't know about you.
Yeah.
Anyone's ever a joke.
No.
Sorry.
First time I
So Simon, did you finish today? Jack finished today, and he's in grade 8.
I did not.
Or you go next week a little bit?
Yeah, a few more days, eh?
Few more days? Cool.
Couple more
exciting.
facts you got to learn, and then you're done. Yeah.
Mhm.
Awesome.
When I was in university to become a teacher, I don't know if you knew that about me, folks, but I used to be a teacher. One of the professors told me the worst student you will ever have to deal with is a grade 8 girl who's mad at you. And I think of that lots. Grade 8 is just it's a rough year. Some of them aren't there because they're busy being sick in the psych ward. However, the ones that are still in class are, and it's true, man, I've taught all grades and all levels, and a grade 8 girl that's mad at you, that hate runs deep.
like what kind of what is it? Explain it.
Oh, they're just
Yeah.
like like if they're like a kid, like a grade 8. I remember maybe have to watch my language, but there was a grade 8 boy, student, like Simon, beautiful young man like Simon, who was really mad at me. He was just angry, right? And he stood right in my face, and I was wearing glasses, and he went, "You skinny effing 4 eyes," but he said effing full. And like the whole rest of the class was like, "What's gonna happen now?" And I said, "I know. Why don't you have a seat?" And he was done, and he sat down. And like boys will get mad at you, and then it's over. A grade 8 girl gets mad at you in September, and somewhere around March they say, "Okay, I'm done with this." It's crazy. Yeah, they hold on to that anger something hard.
God, being a teenage girl is really hard.
I know it is.
so hard.
It's so hard, eh? Like,
Yeah.
I feel like boys don't really have the hardness. Teenage girls, like, oh God. Like, I don't even like to think about being a teenage girl.
It wasn't fun.
They want to just go into like a drug-induced coma. Like not drug-induced, like a doctor did it. Don't do drugs.
Maybe
Yes.
go to outer space for a year or something.
Totally.
Yeah.
Totally.
No.
Vari, tell us what we're drinking today.
Oh, today we are drinking a Chinar Gin Fizz. And Chinar, this is Chinar.
Yeah.
And it's a type of alcohol called an Amaro. And so it's not a terribly high alcohol. And it's Italian. And it's like Aperol. So it's sort of like an Aperol spritz, but totally not the same. Because Aperol tastes like oranges. And Chinar has a base. You see that picture? That's an artichoke. It tastes like artichoke, except it doesn't taste like artichoke. But it's made with artichokes. So it's a bit of a savory cocktail.
Well, that's a tricky one then.
There's gin in it.
Mm.
And there's, we have a little, we put it in a shaker, give it a little shaky shake. We have it right here. There's a little garnish in there. We have some like cucumber ribbons in it. There's also a little bit of lemon juice, some sparkling wine, and some simple syrup. And we put extra simple syrup in Jim's because Jim's not sweet enough by himself. And that is perfect.
I thought you were going to say because Jim's simple, which.
Both of those are just so nice. Happy Father's Day to be.
Hey, we have a really special guest today that I was explaining Trash or Treasure to him, and he's like, "Run that by me again." Yeah, but that's good because I like it. He's definitely been thinking about it. Did you know he's a top 40 under 40? Did you know Beni was? I did not know this until I read up. You probably know that, Jim, because you know everything. Beni is the founder and executive director of well, you know what? Let's bring him in because then I'll read what I have and then he's going to correct it all and go, who did your research? And I'll say me, and he'll say, obviously, that's the problem. So it's always good to have him in. Beni, the legend.
Ready to go.
You are on it. Hey, Beni, I'm going to read this. You're going to tell me if I'm right.
Okay.
We already went over the top 40 under 40, which I don't want to brag, but I was a top 40 under 40 about
welcome, brother.
40 years ago, right?
It's all good.
Yeah, exactly.
It's a brother. It's a sisterhood. It's a familyhood.
That's
Exactly.
right.
Founder, executive director at 10 at 10, aka 10X Music and Culture. That's been around since 2011.
Mhm.
He produces events, visibility for artists, and evolved the cultural landscape of Calgary. You also do a bunch of video and web work, correct?
Graphic and web work. I can do video and I can do photo, but I have just an understanding of media in general. Yeah.
And as an artist, your rap group, the Humble Giants, is one of the few that's performed at South by Southwest.
Yes.
So you come here with a heavy resume. Congratulations, my friend.
Thank you, guys. Thank you. I appreciate that.
Well, that's the interesting thing, Dave, is Mandy and Beni both actually earned their way on. We just happened to know the guy who's got this right in the magazine at the time.
Exactly.
Way easier back in the 80s to get in that magazine.
Yes. We made it to top 40 under 40 as Gary's buddies. I think it's how we made it to top 40 under 40. And now, just as a bit of background, Beni, and I know this about you, you're a huge hip hop artist, and you grew up in the hotbed of hip hop in the world. Where did you grow up again?
Fort McMurray, Alberta.
Right? Right?
You kidding me?
Oh, amazing.
I mean, I'm currently an artist on hiatus, but I think everything going on right now, I'm a little bit more, charged up again. So, we'll see. But yeah, Fort McMurray, man, when you have an idle mind, yeah, it's you'll start putting that into arts real quick.
Good for you. As it should be. So how did you wind up? I know that it was an artistic road, but just for the folks watching, how'd you end up in Calgary?
Well, we were doing actually pretty good. Obviously, big fish, small pond. We had joined a tour with Swollen members who in Canada at the time was like that Rap City, Much Vibe, main artist type thing or whatever. We did a good show with them, and their manager actually said, "You guys should really pursue this for real." And then Calgary has a bubbling scene. And at the time, I was 19, and I got to go do the college thing. And a lot of people from Fort McMurray were going to Edmonton. So I said, you know what? I don't want to go where everyone's going. Let's go see what Calgary's all about. I looked up some of the schools. There were some things I was interested in. So I came to Mount Royal for 3 semesters before I switched over, but I let school be the thing that drove me down here, got grants for it, but I did want to pursue obviously just life in general, football before I got injured, and then, you know, a little bit about music as well.
And you do so much now. One of the things I know you're doing is if people want to say, okay, where are some businesses run by African Canadian Black people? That's one of the things. But tell us a bit about sort of the business side and the culture side that you're working in now.
Oh, well, I mean, I've been doing that kind of work since I started. I mean, again, being in Fort McMurray, you're not around things. We have something called the Blueberry Festival, and that's like 1/78th of Calgary Stampede on the Friday, if anything. Like, it's not even like a big thing. It's like one carousel and free food and stuff. It's weird. So never ever got into culture and that kind of stuff there. So when I got here, it was really just about let me get into this graphic design and web design stuff so I can market myself as an artist. And at the time, there was no internet streaming platforms. It was all about designing your own artwork and then marketing yourself. So for me, I wanted to get cool at that. And I graduated or was in school, and I got reached out to by one of the community organizations here, Africa Day, to do their website. So I was sitting in on their meetings. Long story short, I met some people, and we decided to do a Black History Month event. And that started my journey when I was 23 at creating events and doing it for the African, Caribbean, Black population here in the city. Obviously, of something that, you know, I was intrigued about, because I was just like, yo, I don't even really know Canadian Black history, even my own. Being African myself, I wasn't born in Canada, but I was raised in Canada. So I was like, this is really cool. I would love to just like highlight, you know, peeps, but I didn't know anything really about anything else other than I was an artist. I would love a platform like that, and I would love to find more artists who are doing things like that. And that's how it all began. So working with the Black community now is not something new. It's something that I started doing and always found the gaps. Like, I'm from Fort Mac. I've never had a barber. So where do I get a barber in Calgary? Right? And then it's like, okay, well, how do I go figure that out? So outside of just like talking to people at school, literally like, hey man, what's up? How you doing? That's awesome. Yeah, I'm not from here. Barbers, where do you find those? Right? So for me, I'm like, I do websites. I can make this thing work. I can make a directory. And that kind of all like started the whole, like, how do we connect this Black community at large? But when you say Black is not monolithic. It's not. Everybody has different experiences. Again, I'm African, but I familiarize with the North American Black experience. Because if I go to Ghana right now, they're going to be like, you're Canadian. You don't know anything. What's going on over here? Right? But if I'm with you guys, I'm African. Right? And it's only because I was born there. But, you know, and I know a little bit more about Africa than you, but maybe, maybe.
Right.
So it's really just about trying to fill the gaps that everybody has, is, you know, trying to find where these businesses exist and how they make themselves visible. Often enough, when you are just worried about paying rent, you're not too concerned with like the marketing things and the graphic design and connecting with your community. And also because there's not other things in place, like, you know, awards and stuff. People, there's no visibility for that community at all.
Yeah.
Even when you're considering magazines, they don't do write-ups on the best, you know, Caribbean food and stuff. And they have now in the past year, but for everybody else that's been here for a very long time, it's very, very tough road to find those kind of things. So yeah, just want to fill the gaps, man.
Well, it's you're a leader in the community for doing that, and we're lucky to have you here in Calgary. Before we get into other topics, I think it's really important that we see how good Jim and Mandy are at seeing if you're a liar or not.
Yeah.
That to me is kind of the thing we got to get into. So we're going to do a quick round of trash or treasure now, ladies and gentlemen. And our good friend Beni has a couple of items he wants to share with us, Jim and Mandy, and play along at home if you'd like. See if you can figure out which one is the truth and which one is nowhere near. Are you ready, Beni? Are you ready for this?
I'm ready.
All right, take it away. And how do you feel, Mandy and Jim? You guys feel confident this time, or what's your deal?
Oh yeah, I feel like I'm just Mandy. We can see liars like from a mile away, can't we?
I'm the worst at this game because I believe in so much good in everybody and every story. So
Here's the clue, Mandy.
I'll do my best.
When he starts lying, he looks up to the left.
He's not gonna
All right, take it. Go, Benny, go.
Here we go.
So me and my rap crew, we performed at South by Southwest in 2016. And obviously, before we go on stage, we're like, how do we make our impression seen in Austin, Texas? And we're like, let's print some stickers. So we got these stickers printed in Austin, Texas, 1 hour before the show. True or false?
Great. Okay.
They're awesome, though. And you do design those?
Oh, yeah. That's the logo I designed.
They're so good. So good.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
That's it, Mandy. Reel him in, Mandy.
This guy right here, Kobe Bean Bryant, had 20 years as an LA Laker. And I was fortunate enough to go to LA to watch his final game, get this memorabilia, exclusively made, printed Kobe Bryant tribute magazine.
So hard.
You guys are screwed.
This has got to be so hard.
Right
They're
here.
both treasures.
This
Both
is-
treasures.
This is probably one of my best marked items to date that no one else is ever going to get to touch ever.
Okay, so
True or false?
Yes.
okay. Question time. I got lots of questions. Like,
Russ, Russ and Vari, as judges, you're allowed to cut off questions whenever you want, but Jim, take it.
Dave, you always do. You're always trying to screw me over.
Well, because you always ask 1,000 questions.
Three question limit. There you go.
Oh, see, way to go, Dave. So, Mandy, we each get 3 questions.
Okay.
Oh, okay.
So, tell me more about the Kobe Bryant. Obviously, you're a Kobe Bryant
Tell me
fan.
more. What kind of question is that?
I'm having a conversation, Mr. Interrupterson. If I look at the background, you've got a lot of Kobe Bryant stuff. What differentiates that item from the other really cool Kobe Bryant stuff you have?
Oh, this is a swingman jersey. It's not an official jersey. And that is from another magazine that just had a Kobe Bryant spread inside of it.
Okay, but so tell me a bit more about this magazine.
A bit more.
A bit more. Well, it's not, I wouldn't call it a
He said
magazine.
all he needed to say, Jim.
I wouldn't call it a magazine. It's more like an editorials photo lookbook of Kobe Bryant's career. Printed on high quality press photo. As you see, there's no creases. Look at how my
That's a
pen
nice glossy paper. Yeah.
ever so rested on it.
And so who all got that book?
Everybody that was in attendance.
You want like a list of names?
No, they just for the seats.
What was the game like?
Nobody outside the building got it.
That's 3 questions.
Questions. You had 3 questions.
Sorry, guys.
Oh.
Yeah. All right, Jim and Mandy, you can confer with each other, but no more asking questions.
Well, let's see. What I don't know is in this book is the question is, was he at that game where that book was given out? Is that simply what I'm trying to make a decision on?
Yeah,
Because
that is.
there.
Mm-hmm. Good luck,
And-
Jim.
This
Good
is
luck,
tough.
Jimmy.
Because they're both so good.
Yeah. Well, do you have anything
Both
else with
treasures in my book, but I would go with number 2.
You say number 2 is the treasure, Mandy?
I don't know. You know that my like I.
Well,
I
he was
don't
just
go
so
out this-
blasé. He was so blasé. Here's where I'm gonna go. You know,
Oh, okay. You're going logic. Okay.
I'm going to the game, and Benny was blasé about the Humble Giants stickers. Made it an hour before. Okay, and then let me tell you this
Right.
grand glorious Kobe Bryant thing,
Right.
of which seems to me blew that one up.
But it's also very special.
Yeah,
Um,
special.
Yeah.
So
Okay.
your
All right.
final answer would be
Number one. Number one
It's
is
true.
the true is the real
The
story.
stickers are treasure?
the stickers of the treasure. Is that what you're saying? Mandy, you concur? Benny, what do you got to say?
Oh, I gotta admit it right now.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
All right. What's
I
the
let this
truth?
guy out for a little bit.
Yeah.
That was not that game. Come on.
I gotta take my coat off. Almost.
I wish. But my friend was, and he got me the book. So I was there.
Amazing.
It's not trash. It's still treasure, but the story is trash.
Yeah.
I love it.
Good work, Mandy. Way to go,
You
Mandy.
guys.
That's all you, Jim.
That's so great.
How do we get those stickers if they're available out there?
Oh, they're just sitting on my shelf if you want
Oh,
one. Yeah.
Hey, Benny, there's so much we can talk about. I want to talk a little bit about Juneteenth in a moment, but one of the things you talked about, and this is because Russ had a similar story.
Okay.
Russ has told a great story about a teacher who told him at one point that, you know what, there's something in here for you. There was somebody in Fort McMurray that did the same kind of thing for you, as I understand. Is that true or false? And how did that affect your trajectory?
Yeah, I mean, I had different people along the way. I think it was a combination of things. I had a teacher that was early when I was like in grade 4, and I did a talent show thing where I kind of lip synced on top of the stuff, but I rapped it really with conviction. And they were just like, that was amazing. You should actually do this thing. And then when I was in grade 12, we had to do a play for King Lear, and the teacher, who was like a well-decorated like theater person, was just like, that was the best like high school performance I've ever seen. And she lost the tape. So she's like, you need to get into acting. And I was just like, how did you lose the tape for the best thing you've ever seen in your life? So I've never even got to see it. And she's like, you need to pursue acting. And it was something that I pursued a little bit later, just a little bit like with the ATV stuff that I did here, but nothing crazy. But it was a combination of those things, plus obviously friends and people in the city. Like, obviously you're good, but I'm a realist. So I'm not like just sitting there. I'm like, oh, I could be amazing. It's just more so like, well, let's pursue and see what happens. And, you know, I know my odds of being an Alberta rapper are super high. So let's keep going.
Benny, can I tell you this? As you've already learned about me, Benny, I'm really good at understanding people and reading through things.
Yeah.
Let me tell you about that lost tape. You ever heard of people having lost albums and they make a lot of money off it? She knew that you were a star way back then.
Thank you.
You're ready for that tape to come out.
Trying to show you guys on my Instagram, but it's not working properly.
Benny, Juneteenth is a big, started in Texas, but now is spread, and there's talk now of it becoming a national holiday in the States. Is it something that means a lot to you, or what is today in your world?
Juneteenth is important just because it's important to the Black diaspora, right? So obviously when you're talking about all things Black, like I said, we're not monolithic. So it's really amazing to find out what's happening, you know, with different people's experiences in different walks of life. And so you can appreciate our struggles differently. But Juneteenth, it actually is so important because the slaves were freed in 1863, but they weren't told until 1865. So
Crazy.
On June 19th, when the general came from the Union, like, yo guys, you're free, by the way. Everyone was like, what? So that's when things started for their freedom. But they weren't told by the slave masters in Texas because they wanted to go through another harvest. So it was actually 2 years and 2 months that they were actually freed, but weren't allowed and didn't even know about it. So Juneteenth was the day that they celebrate, and that's why it's so super important.
It is. It's a big deal and a big day today. What has been your reaction to? I mean, it's a horrible tragedy that kind of got things going, but this more recent Black Lives Matter movement and what has that been like for you?
Well, I mean, for me, it's been my entire life. I mean, it's not a death in the States, right? I mean, I'm 35 years old. 9 times out of 10, if I walk into a room, I'm the darkest guy in the room. 9 times out of 10, if I walk into a room, I have the most hair or the biggest hair in the room. So for me, and facing any kind of, you know, prejudice has always existed, whether it's completely blatant to my face or just completely covert. So when you look at the times now, George Floyd, what happened with him was kind of like the straw that broke everything. Because before all of that, it's easy to be like, well, you know, we see death all the time. We see it all the time. And now we're becoming desensitized to it. But when you're sitting at home with no job for a lot of people, you know, the worst economic situation in North America since the Great Depression, you know, and you're looking at somebody be slowly executed for 8 minutes and 46 seconds, it kind of makes something in you go like, okay, at this point in time, what do I have to lose? And what do I have to lose if I don't say anything or say something about this? This is not how anybody should be living, because the way that we're doing stuff right now obviously isn't working. So this moment is so big and so different for all of those things all coming into together. And it wasn't just him. His was just the final one. Before that was Ahmaud Arbery, who in February was killed. But when that footage was released, it was like, this happened in February. Why are we talking about it now? And it's only because Twitter was just like, yo, guys, this has been happening with some other stuff recently. Mm-hmm. And then, it's just like Breonna Taylor was sleeping at home 8 blocks away from an arrest, and 3 cops burst into her house, ran upstairs, shot 22 shots, and killed her. And they were in the wrong house. They didn't have a warrant for it. So you have all these things happening within like a 4-week span. You have coronavirus. You have everybody going stir crazy. You have no distractions because there's no events. There's nothing to really do but sit there and then watch President Trump tweet and see more and more police brutality. And you're just like, you're fed up. You're fed up.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And what part, is there any part of this that gives you hope, or is it just at this point and justifiably just anger?
Oh, tons of hope. So much has already changed in the past 3 weeks when you're talking about certain kinds of legislation. Minnesota has abolished their police, right? That's people like, what do you mean abolish the police? It's like policing system was set into accord to do things that weren't actually there to protect everybody. It was there for other reasons. And we can get into that, but that's obviously, it's happy hour. We don't want to get into that stuff. Yeah. But what we're talking about here is like, change has happened. People are seeing things, being addressed. You just saw in Calgary, if you want to talk about how it affects Canada, literally last week or this week, our own council said we're going to put forward anti-racism act, right? People are paying attention. Yet all 52 states uprise and protest, all of them. So every single government in North America or in America has literally had an issue with protesters, and now they have to listen to the people. So it's not just people are annoyed. It's like, nah, we've had these issues. Yeah. We say Black Lives Matter because when we talk, you haven't been listening. And now we're talking, and now you need to listen. And you're seeing change happen already. And this is not going to be something that's overnight. It will take generations. I won't see everything in my lifetime. Maybe even my kids won't see everything fully, but things have started to happen. And that's what's been amazing about it.
Mm. Do you want, just for Jim, to talk a little bit more about the game that Kobe was in? Would that help, Jim? Sorry, I interrupted. Someone had a question. Go ahead. Was it Russ? Oh.
Well, yeah, it feels like a tipping point.
Mm.
No, definitely. Yeah, definitely a tipping point. Yeah, there's just too much. There's been too much on the side of doing nothing, in a lot of different ways. Again, you also have an antagonizer like Trump, right? He's like, when you had Obama in office, at least there was a figurehead that made you be like, everything's okay, right?
Right.
Everything's fine. Everything's good. There's a black guy up there, right? It's fine. You have Trump, who's just like racist. It's not even. It's super unfortunate because it just completely undermines people's intelligence, and it's just people are fed up. They're fed up.
What I'll ask one more, and then anyone else jump in. This is something that that I have to deal with, and how do I go from wrong to right? And obviously, I like to think, well, I'm a decent person. I treat people well. I'm not racist at all. But of course, there's blind spots everywhere. As I'm learning, as all of us are learning, there's all kinds of blind spots. And I'm not looking for forgiveness for those blind spots, nor am I looking for a way to rationalize them away. But my question is, when I'm wrong, and clearly there's a lot of things that I'm doing that wrong, what can happen is I can get paralyzed because I think I just don't want to make a mistake on anything. And you are, and I would suggest that you're more than capable of saying, well, tough shit, Dave, grow up, put on some pants and figure it out. But is there anything in that world of being wrong and trying to get right, or how we navigate that?
It's just like anything, man. When you start to learn how to walk, you fell down, you scraped your knees, right? Like you have to, anything you can learn, racism is taught, you learn it, whether directly or indirectly by how people are around you and your environment shape certain things, how you call things or call people or respond to whatever, it's taught. So to unlearn, will take time. But just like you learned it, you have to unlearn it. You have to take time doing that. It's not going to change with a black square on Instagram. It's not going to change with one conversation with somebody who gives you a little bit of resistance. it's about you learning and finding out those nuances, finding out the language, learning the languages, learning history so you can apply it to how you've been as a person. You know, people aren't inherently bad. It's just, you know, our environment shape us in certain ways that we think is right. And we're not trying to go out of our way to be a dick to people. But when you're being a dick to people, you have to listen and say, like, nah, it's not cool, man. That's just not cool. Yeah. So the biggest thing is about taking that time to do your research and to understand that it's not going to just effervescently just enter your body. Okay, right. I am no longer racist. It's literally you have to find out why things can be considered racist in action, because systemically racism is here and it puts things in place. So microaggressions can happen even when you don't even intend for it. Like something as simple as, I don't even see color, man. Everybody's equal. It's like, no, we're not. We're not. Right. And again, doing that minimizes my struggle by saying that, right? So you need to understand how your words come off. Words matter. And the more you understand about the history of what's going on, the true history of what's going on, the better off you can be as an ally and somebody who's finding out about themselves. And it can be painful because it's like, I didn't want to go to the gym today. I know I got to lose 10 pounds, but oh man, I gotta go run for 30 minutes. I gotta change my diet. Like it takes work, right? It takes 21 days to form a habit, right? So just even if you think of that simple thing and you want to start with memes on Instagram, go ahead, because there's tons of great information there. And if you want to graduate to books or graduate to podcasts or videos or YouTube, man, we are in the information era. There is zero reason why you can't discover what's going on right now. And we went to the same school system. So coming to me to teach is unfair because I have to teach myself. I went online and taught myself, right? So the same thing can be asked. You can hop onto YouTube and say, you know, what is racism? What is a microaggression? You know, how do I X, Y, and Z, right? And Siri will help you out. Siri's got you.
Got you.
Oh, Siri. Anyone else want to jump in? I got a million questions, but if anyone else has a thought or wants to say anything.
I have my live open right now, and Isis Graham, shout out to Isis. She said that Me and My White Supremacy is a great resource book for someone going through reflective work.
We put that on our blog post there, Rob.
You know what is I learned from your Instagram, which just goes to show again how there's lots to learn. Black Lives Matter was started by 3 women. I did not know that. Now, here's my other question. What a few folks have said here and in other places, our mayor spoke about this, about when you're a young person and you get a driver's license and you are black or brown, that you are told whenever there's police involved, just comply, because it can go horribly wrong for you. That is a talk I never got as a young person or never got at any point in my life. So there's things like that I realized I'm just this blind person who has just so much to learn still.
You guys watch Andrew Schultz?
Yes.
Yeah, an amazing comedian. He did a cool little skit just last week about it. He's like, white people love cops. We love cops. We can't wait to see cops. We make, you know, our sexual things cops, girls in the bedroom, cops, everything's cops. We hate cops. We can't stand cops because of how, you know, the anxiety that is formed from our interaction with them. We're already in the wrong before something happens. And that's the unfortunate part, right? And so when you're talking about traffic stops, this kind of whatever, we think that it's an American thing. And this stuff happens. I guess just a homie of mine actually just told this story on Twitter today. And it was this guy who was just in his own parking lot in a nice car eating poutine. And he's a fair-skinned black guy who's well-educated, so he's never really had full issues with cops in any kind of like, you know, aggressive kind of way. And after this interaction, he was just like, they pulled me over, and then they pulled me over. They came to my window and they asked me to roll it down as I'm eating my poutine. And then they started to question me about, you know, whose car it was. And he was like, this is my vehicle. And they said, okay, well, you know, it's kind of interesting. The plates look kind of funny. He's like, yeah, they're on their way in right now. But as you can see, like, this is my vehicle. Everything all checks out and stuff. And they asked him to get out of the vehicle. And he was just like, I don't understand why I need to get out of the vehicle now. You've already asked me by coming to my car window and knocking on the glass, you know, what this kind of interaction is, or why you're asking for more from this. And it was just something that if he was not in a good mood, could have turned into something even more of a pestering kind of situation, or it forms anxiety, because now you're sitting there and you're wondering, like, why I'm not doing anything wrong in this instance. And this is not even a situation where there's a lot of friction. Well, friction can be formed just by, again, doing these routine out of nowhere. You're eating poutine in your car, but the car's too nice type situation, right? So, and that's just something that's light. That has nothing to do with me actually driving and, you know, getting pulled over and all that other kind of stuff. Those are all its own battles.
Feels like the same kind of thing when Gary, my buddy Gary, was on here. Don't know if you saw it, Benny, but he talked about when they were out. We grew up together, and time then he was out, and the cop just took the hat that was on backwards and used his baton to spin his hat around to the front of his head. You know, it's like, just think of how powerful of a statement that is as a cop who's an authority on what he's actually trying to provoke by doing something like that.
It's all the small things.
They get to be touched, right? Like the police feel entitled to touch them. Like, so inappropriate.
Wow, it's so big, but it's so great to be talking about, and it's fun. I feel nervous, not all the time, but I'm nervously aware that I'm sitting from a position of privilege, saying, yes, it's something I must learn, shouldn't I? Come on. But it's a worthy road for everybody to go down as quickly as they can, because it's an important part of, like the show, of turning us into a neighborhood. And if we wanted to be a neighborhood, we'd better find a way to make this work, wouldn't you say?
Absolutely. Did you guys watch Jay Mead's speech while he was thrown outside of the House of Commons?
Oh yeah, go at that. Go. Yeah.
Well, I mean, again, it's just another case where there's clearly racism at the top in our just everything. Everything's racist. There's privilege everywhere, and people don't want to even admit that. That's what the problem is. Like, you can't even admit that there's racism. This is why there's issues and why everybody feels uncomfortable. So Jake Mead had put forward a motion to say, hey guys, can we at least admit that the RCMP is racist and there's some racist things in play? And can we maybe go against some of those things so that everybody can be a little bit more equal out here? Because people are dying, and he literally listed people's names. Yeah. So it's like no more honorable way to do this than to list the people's names that actually been killed by cops in Canada. And then they were like, is there a unanimous vote? And everybody said, yay, yay. Then there was one no. And he was like, wait, what? There's a no? And then when you look at the whole House Speaker thing, it's kind of funny, because then they zoom out and they go to different views. In the whole room, it's all white people in our parliament. And as you guys can see, like, it's a completely different situation out here when you have people from all walks of life in Canada. Canada's considered a mosaic, but our government is completely not a mosaic. So when somebody says that, okay, there's racism happening, can we address it? And then someone's like, no. And because it's not unanimous, our government then says, oh, it doesn't work. We got to pass on that. One, how is that democracy? And two, you're telling me that the people that we've elected to be our government can't even see that there's racism at the top and the room that they're in? We have a problem. So they threw him out of the House. I don't know what happens past that, because social studies in school for me was trash. I didn't really, let's be honest. I'm not like an extra politician here, guys. I'm just saying. There's things that please don't pay attention to.
You're our civics class. If you don't get this right, my friend, then that's it. We're going.
It ain't right. It ain't right. So, I mean, again, it's as the one lone brown man, you know, being our representation, it makes you think like we need more people of color in our government and in our representation and in our leadership to make decisions, because then you get a homogenized decision making and don't get the true perspective of everybody. And unfortunately, those decisions don't matter for everybody, and they don't help change what is wrong with our own very own beautiful, amazing country that has its own issues that they swept under the rug and no one's checking for.
Yeah, I want to make things heavy and intense and serious right now. And Benny, you're the only guy I think that can help me with this. And this is heavy, so deal with it. I don't get Drake. I don't.
What do you mean? What do you mean you don't get Drake?
Like I appreciate it, but whenever it comes on, I'm like, I don't get
Like,
it.
you only liked him on Degrassi? You don't like
Listen,
him?
Drake is the voice of a generation, man. Drake changed it all. Drake changed the entire music industry. What Drake has done for hip hop and pop music and Canadian artistry and Canadian music is beyond legendary. It won't even be duplicated again. And that's part of the whole thing. I can't even really attest to, the nuance. I could speak for 3 hours on Drake.
You could? This is awesome. Because honestly, okay, there's two people I don't get, and this is a whole other subject, but I don't get you two. I just don't get them.
I don't get you.
And I don't get Drake.
I don't either.
So Drake came into the game, and the way that he approached his music was from a melodic standpoint. So a lot of the times before that point, you had rap. Rap was very staccato. Bada, 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 bada. So obviously, if you were infused in the culture, you appreciated the technicality and the cadences and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
But average person who weren't as well versed in that kind of sound, sonically, you didn't really connect with it. And what he was able to do was sing more so, just like a pop song, and create these rhythmic energies with his R&B, with his hip hop, to make this blend of like a blended R&B hip hop sound and push that sound forward where, girls loved it. People loved to dance to it. And his lyricism alone, just like you hear in design, Mandy, you may appreciate that, is that a design isn't done until it's completely simple and you can no longer remove anything away. The way that he's able to dictate things in one line, 2 lines is far further reaching than anyone else that has really come in that lane of what he was trying to do as well. So you combine all those elements with Hotline Bling, and you got the king, son. You got the king.
And he's an artist who did not rely on our grant system to get where he's going. He did it independently.
That's a lie. He actually did use grants. He uses grants. He's not
He did?
He's a business guy.
Yeah.
So at the end of the day, he still made his own money in the industry and in the game,
Yes.
but also at the same time, the Canadian organizations for music, they want to be able to pat themselves on the back and also show the government that like they're doing successful work. So he's getting grants for stuff like OVO Fest, which only makes them look better too. Like, yo, look at the work that we're doing. He's like, I got OVO Fest. I'll put my money up, but these grants are also going to support. And Canada's like, we did a good thing. We're great. So he did get grants, but not in the traditional like.
Not in the traditional way.
2000.
No, and I don't think he gets the credit for what a pioneer he is. And
not at all.
It's, and the normalization of that is something that is hard to understand.
I can't wait till he tells us his memoir, so on, etc. But the way that he understood it. Like Canada in urban music doesn't have the economics that can truly propel an artist, right? That's why Justin Bieber had to go to the States, Drake, The Weeknd, Tory Lanez. They blow up in that market. That market dictates how much money they're worth. And in Canada, it looks like those are our guys. And then they come back here and we pay them on tours, right? But even when you're talking about commercial, radio, pop, it's not going to propel them forward. Drake even was being nominated for all these award shows in the States and he didn't get a Juno. So at that point, you're just like, the Junos paying attention? Did the Junos matter to my trajectory? In that way, it's like, these are things where sometimes it's very hard being the urban side. And I say urban with disgust and nausea in my stomach, like hip hop and R&B, black music, they do these things, which is actually pop music. It's just music. It's music that everybody's listening to, but we got a little urban corner on the side that doesn't get televised, but I can talk for 3 hours about that if we want.
Oh, it's so good. Okay. So
that's happy hour.
This is so good. Okay, so this is very important. Drake, I got my give me a Drake tune. We can't play it on here because we don't have the licensing for it, but give me one Drake tune I'm going to listen to and why I should be respected or love it. Tell me, go.
That's kind of on the spot, man.
I know. I'll read them to you. I'm on like two C slide, Money in the Grave, God's Plan, One Dance, Nice for What, Nonstop. You tell me. Give me a tune and say, because I really appreciate this. Seriously, I do. Because I don't want to be, as you know, who likes Drake is my son, and he's 9. And the truth is, I'm like, what is this? Can we move on to something else? But because of you, my friend, you are going to change my mind. So give me.
We're so old, man.
I know. I'm the old guy.
This is wild, man. I'm trying to like get you. Okay, you know what? Who's
What?
your favorite artist, or what's your favorite?
Oh, this is gonna be trouble. Don't do this,
I need
guys.
to mirror that. I need to mirror the energy. So
Pee Wee Herman is Dave's favorite artist.
Okay, whoa.
What's your favorite artist?
It was Humberback.
Some of your classic tunes. What are you really feeling out there? And I can see if Drake has something.
Just give me just one song. Don't even judge it on me. Just go listen to this.
Just listen to everything he's done, Dave.
Yeah, I got to because one dance is Afro beats, right? So I mean, if you don't like that kind of rhythm,
don't worry about it. Don't worry about it. Just tell me a song you like. It doesn't matter. I'll read some. Passion Fruit, Mob Ties, Jumpman, Too Good, Controlla, Chicago Freestyle.
You're sounding like the oldest. Remember how you were complaining about that you looked old? I think you just keep talking. you're just making sure you sound old. Music these kids are listening to today.
The top 40 over 90.
I'm so sorry.
Yeah. If you want to dance, yes, put on Controlla. Do that for yourself. Go in the kitchen, put on Controlla, start to make your favorite grilled cheese sandwich. It'll be great. Love it. If you want.
No, that's it. That's it. Stop right there. That's all I need to know.
Okay, all right. All right. We need to see the video of that if you want to go live. Got you. We'll be there for you.
As the oldest man in the room and the oldest white guy in the room, I really appreciate that.
I got you.
Oh, that's so good. This is so good. And I realize there's so many heavier and more important issues as part of this, but this is so hilarious that I like halfway through this, I'm like, I am not my dad. I'm my grandfather right now.
First step is acknowledging it, Dave.
Yep.
Yeah.
That is true.
Okay, if people want to find you, Benny, where can they on the socials? Where can they find you?
On Instagram, I am Benny.J.say. So it's BENI.JAY.SAY. So I gotta spread the Benny and the J because dyslexia is real, and it's Benji. It's a tough world out here. On Instagram, it's at Beni Johnson, which is BENIJOHNSON. Facebook, Beni Johnson. That's basically it, man. I mean, you can follow the 10 to 10 account, obviously, if you guys want to be up to date with what's going on in the hip hop community, the Black community here in Calgary. We're doing a good job of just trying to keep a hold of, give everybody one kind of place to go to. So that's at 10 at 10 Calgary. So 10AT10 Calgary. And same thing as Twitter and Facebook without the Calgary.
How are you dealing with the 10 to 10 stuff during the pandemic? Are you still able to put something on, or at least showcase some artists? Or
it's been amazing actually internally. So we're not working on shows right now. Like we literally are show driven. So we had crazy shows planned this summer. This month we had the biggest B-boy, which is a breakdance competition in the world, happening in Calgary with Red Bull that we had to cancel. So like for me, it's not about trying to get like another smaller event out the door. Right now, we're just working on, okay, how we get ready for what's next. So we're forming a board. We're switching over to a not-for-profit agency to the full board sense of it, because we've always functioned as a social enterprise, but now we need to go get those grant dollars that may or may not be there soon. So we're going to move in that kind of direction. So yeah, I've been working on ourselves more than worrying about any kind of output right now. We're allowing everybody that's just freelancing and do whatever to just join the party and do their thing, and the city can appreciate it, and I can appreciate people's ideas and what they want to do and what they want to see, and then we'll come out swinging. Hopefully, after all this is a little bit better. How are you doing, man? With your side of things, are you doing any gigs soon? Anything online?
I'm lucky that I do a lot of studio stuff, and I do it alone. So I've been really busy, but it's that interaction with audiences and stuff, as that fuels what we do. Yeah. And without that element, it can get a little bit weird, where you're not sure if something you're doing has any merit or not. Because you don't get that immediate feedback, right?
Exactly. Have you tried playing online yet at all?
Yeah, I did a couple online things with Jan Arden on Facebook.
Okay, how'd that go?
Yeah, it was good. Yeah, it was really good. Yeah, we were kind of some of the first out of the gate for that sort of Facebook Live, sitting in front of a laptop 6 feet apart, play some songs. The
energy is a little different, obviously, and like even for me, I don't have a true I'm not compelled to do it. I watch some of them and I'm like, this is not.
Some of them are, it's tough because there's no feed, there's no other energy to get back, right?
Yeah.
So it just feels like you're playing tennis alone.
Yeah, exactly. And I was watching the Versus. I don't know if you guys heard of the Versus that's been happening. It's in the hip hop community. Swiss Beats and Timbaland, they're heavy super producers from the 90s of hip hop, R&B, if you guys are aware of those guys. And they created a series just on Instagram Live battling, the top of the top were all battling each other. So Swiss Beats went versus Timbaland, and it was like T-Pain versus Little John. Beanie Man versus Bounty Killer, so that was like a reggae thing. And the best part about it is it's not about hearing the music, it's actually about the stories that they're telling you about how those songs came together or what that song did when it came out. Like there was just a ton of knowledge that you're learning versus just seeing a DJ play records and stuff. So that I've been appreciating from like an educational standpoint, but the music experience online has been very, very rugged. I've kind of just taken this time to just like relax and be like, I'll wait for the live venues and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
So Benny, question for you. Is there anything, like my brewery, Village, does a lot of concerts, a lot of festivals. We started Circle, sponsor Reggae Fest, Africa Day, Festival Latino, all those things. But we don't have a lot to, and 10% of my money that I make has to go back, mandated to go back into the community. Anything I can do that you can visualize that I can help along the way would be greatly appreciated. Like if your concerts, if your process could use some help, then we should probably chat.
We should definitely have a chat. We're working on a fund right now for some artists and stuff like that. So yeah, we can definitely talk and have a conversation about this.
Okay.
There is we have planned coming up. But we just want to get this side of things all fixed up. So let's chatty. Let's get the context.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Chatty.
Just to excite everybody, when this is over, I'm going to go upstairs. I'm going to put on Controlla. And I'm
my man.
I'm going to bust out some moves.
My man.
Oh, you're such a good guy. Thank you, Benny. Oh, here's this. Okay, so Benny, Russ has written a theme song for us, which is incredible.
Okay.
Oh, no.
And at the end of our show, me and Mandy typically dance to Russ's theme music.
Okay.
So this is where you can say that boy ain't no Drake. That's for sure. But before we go, what a pleasure it's been to hang out with you, and I apologize for seeming like your grandpa asking about kids.
It's all good. You guys remember where I grew up from, right? So it's all good.
Meaning he set the bar low, Dave. That's all it means.
This is not foreign.
Oh, this is so great. Okay, so we wrap up the show with Russ plays our theme for about 20 seconds, and me and Mandy show what real dancing looks like.
Hey.
I'm sorry,
Not
man.
true. I'm sorry, Benny.
That is a whole the game. The treasure game.
But Benny, you are such a treasure in our community, and we are so lucky to have you. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, guys. Thank you.
Lucky for us.
Now Dave dance.
Watch this.
My man, get ready, my man. I see you, David Kelly, right now. I'm recording.
Pee Wee Herman, you say, Jim?
Yeah, that looks like Pee Wee Herman, didn't it?
David Kelly is about to dance.